Welcome to the maiden broadcast of the Christian Heritage Institute. Our mission here is to be twofold. Number one, we are evangelistic. We are here to proclaim the gospel of Christ Jesus. Because only by leading the lost to the redemptive cross can we create a generation of reborn men and women who can go out and remake American society. Number two, we are exhortative. We believe that it is important to educate others to the founding principles and the historical heritage of our American Republic. What we are doing here is tying together two things. One, we want to understand where we are right now as a nation. The problems that we're facing. Number two, we want to go back and we want to educate people on where we came from. The traditional heritage of our American Republic. The founding principles. What made this nation great. And then as we have abandoned those principles, we are where we are today. And we are in a state of decay today. I hope over the following broadcasts to enlighten you, to be able to enlighten you into the sense of where we are today compared to where we've been as a nation. And then number three, the last thing is in order to steer a successful future, my goal, our goal, should be to steer a successful future. I have children. They're grown. I hope to have grandchildren. You, as I speak to young people in our nation and around the world, you are the future. You are the hope of our country, of our communities, and indeed, internationally speaking, of the world. You are the future. And it is up to you to know where we came from as a country, as a republic, and where we are now, the problems that we're facing to now. And once we understand how those two things work together, then we can steer a successful future. And only in that way can we steer a successful future. Now, what I want to share with you a little bit today, just to help you understand these three things and how they fit together, is a book that I wrote some years ago. The name of the book is For the Cause. For the Cause, Spiritual Revival in America. For the Cause, Spiritual Revival in America. At the end of today's broadcast, I'm going to tell you how you can get a copy of that. While it was written some while back, several years back, it is just as important today. It is just as up to date today, because the things that I write about in the book that were taking place a couple of years ago, we are still in the midst of those, and it is only getting worse. And I wrote about those things then that we are experiencing now. And so I want you to understand a couple things today as we move it forward in future broadcasts. In chapter 1, to set the stage here, I talk about how some today, politicians, economists, others, humanists, progressives, liberals, you can put whatever label you want to on them. They can put whatever label they want to on them. But there are those today who would have us to believe that we are on the threshold of a utopia in America. That we're on the threshold of a utopia in the world, for that matter. That man is on the verge of creating paradise on earth. An end to suffering. Everyone can work. Everyone can prosper together. And we've seen in the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, the fusing of banks. The conglomeration of mega corporations, particularly transnational corporations. And the usurping of authority of international bodies politic. Think United Nations. Think International Monetary Fund, IMF. Think the World Bank. Think the European Union. Then economically, think NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, back in the 90s. And then the one that's on the front pages now, TPP, Trans-Pacific Pact. These so-called economic pacts have robbed America of millions, literally millions, of middle-class jobs since the early 90s. And now they want to turn around and do it again with TPP. The fusing of banks, the conglomeration of megacorporations, and the usurping authority of international bodies politic, as well as financial institutions, continue the drive towards world government. That's their ultimate goal. It has been since the turn of the 20th century, 1900. 1900, with the League of Nations. When that didn't work, the United Nations. When that doesn't work, well, they'll try something else. The goal is a drive towards world government. The belief that man can solve the problems of this world, they're nothing strange, they're nothing new, it's always been around. It's as old as the story of the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis in the Bible. It's not new, it's not strange, that desire has always been around. The desire of these financial wizards today is both maniacal and lascivious. This paradise that they strive for today is nothing more than a house of cards. And we found that out firsthand in 2007, 2008. With the last economic meltdown in the United States. This paradise that they strive for is nothing more than a house of cards. The truth is, modern civilization has already fallen headlong towards decline. We're witnesses to it right now. We're witnesses to the headlong decline right now in our country. Western society is decaying before our very eyes, and our leaders, political and economic, seem powerless to stem the tide. Man cannot, humanly speaking, turn this world around. Although he has tried for over more than a century now, he's tried. Man cannot humanly turn this world around. Not with legislation, not through education, not by natural reformation. I'm for some kinds of legislation. I'm for education. I have a bachelor's degree in history and political science. I have a master's degree in history. I have degrees that I've gone to in Bible college in order to become a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I am an educator at the high school level. I believe in education. I am preaching education. But man cannot turn this world around through legislation, through education, or by natural reformation. History, and that's why I'm here today. That's why these broadcasts are so important. History is an important subject to learn. For without a knowledge of the past, it is impossible to steer a successful course for the future. Material prosperity is one of the chief reasons for the moral ruination of the United States of America. Social democracy is the noose that's been used to strangle this nation. Fear and greed have eroded away personal liberties in the quest for entitlements and security. Now, Rousseau and those early French and English philosophers, they wrote about the social contract, whereby society is willing to surrender a certain amount of their liberties in order for government to provide security. But the quest for security and entitlements are eroding our personal liberties. Now I'm going to stop there today because I want to leave you with two things. One, I want you to know how to get a copy of the book, For the Cause, Spiritual Revival in America. If you will send a check or a money order, you can make it out to Derrick, D-E-R-R-I-C-K, Hinson, H-I-N-S-O-N, or you can make it out to the Christian Heritage Institute. Either way, a check or a money order for $10 to P.O. Box 604, Walkertown, North Carolina, 27051. Now, again, our message here is where we are now as a nation, where we've been as a constitutional republic, and if we understand where we are and where we've been, then we can steer a successful future. I want you to tune in again to the next broadcast of the Christian Heritage Institute. Until next time, this has been Derek Henson.